Hey everyone, welcome to Your Inbox Last Night. I'm Michelle Tivy, and today is February 3rd. Let me paint you a picture. Saturday and Sunday's Fintech news showed up like your chaotic relatives at Thanksgiving, loud, dramatic, and dropping way too much at once. It took hours to sort through, but that's why you're here, so you don't have to. This episode is exactly why you need to listen to Your Inbox Last Night, because unless you had hours to sift through it all, spoiler, I did, and I barely made it out alive, you might have missed some major headlines. So let's get into it. Today, we'll give you the cheat codes for taking the hell out of Excel, two must-reads for everyone who works with banking, and the best place to find transactional payments in fintech news. Starting as we always do with popular industry news sources. Glenbrook Partners has its first post after returning from the new year. It's a good catch-up for anyone who's just coming to life after the January onslaught. The post covers everything from the CFPB to the Capital One Discover acquisition and, of course, the Credit Card Competition Act, which is before Congress. Glenbrook also points to a NACHA release about their 2024 year wrap-up, which saw just under a 7% increase in ACH network payment volume from 2023 and a B2B increase by just under 12%. They're also reporting that Wells Fargo has been released from their CFPB consent order issued in 2022, their seventh consent order discharged since 2019. This particular one was about automobile and mortgage lending. Turning now to American Banker, AB reports that cannabis advocates are seeing banking opportunities from the Trump administration. Remember that American Banker is gated content, and if you aren't a paying customer, you can't read the story. The papers was jam-packed with news items last night. Take a sip of your coffee, because this is a lot of information. Microsoft is announcing two new partnerships, one with UBS and one with Euroclear. First, let's take the UBS one. To create AI-driven services so that its wealth advisors can access data and insights faster. UBS trained its database by digitalizing about 60,000 of its own investment advice and product documents. The Euroclear Microsoft plan has some customer-facing priorities like AI-driven insights and automation, a new digital platform to simplify client reactions, and two industry-focused plans. Euroclear is developing a financial data sharing ecosystem for financial institutions and a next-gen financial infrastructure that integrates security, regulation, and resilience. Staying with the papers, the Bank of International Settlements published earlier this year to create transparency around AI. The papers explains how the rule gives the United States an eye into those transactions. Danske Bank is going to be implementing BlackRock's Aladdin Wealth platform to scale productivity and engagement for its investment customers, and Revolut will provide travel companies services to automatically settle B2B payments. And finally, from the papers, Flipkart is introducing credit card bill payments on their platform in India, solving a big problem for that region. And JetBlue chose Barclays to issue their new Premier card. Among the perks listed are lounge access, statement credits, and rewards. Finally, done with the papers and moving on to digital transactions. Data nerds perk up. This issue of DT has a recap of the equity analyst call between Visa and investors. There's all the Visa data you could want on the first quarter of fiscal year 2025, transaction volume, tokenization, and a myriad of Visa products. So if you are looking for data on Visa, this is a treasure trove. Payments Dive has a comprehensive list of conferences you'll want to know about. The topics range from AI and crypto to ISO 222. We'll be back after this short break.
Want your brand in front of fintech's sharpest minds? Your inbox last night keeps industry leaders up to speed, fast. Sponsor the show and get your message heard where it matters. Let's talk. Email us at labs@payometry.io. That's LABS at payometry.io.
Okay, we're back and turning to our favorite substacks. First, AI Report has a story about the AI upgrade happening for Siri over at Apple. Cashless has an article about DeepSeek, proving that China can innovate. Cashless also includes two papers that, when read together, explain the direction of tokenization and why it isn't happening more quickly. Superhuman has a small mention of a big feature Google's Gemini can now perform. The AI can transform spreadsheets into charts and then analyze the data for you. Fintech Blueprint depicts the iceberg that is compliance in our industry. It's fascinating and, in my opinion, an accurate representation of how large banks deal with compliance. This is one of today's recommended must-reads. As we turn to This Week in Fintech, this is a good time to answer a question we received last week. What stories does your inbox last night not cover? There's some items that are so plentiful we have to balance their coverage a little. So here are the three things we don't cover when looking at your inbox last night, except in extraordinary circumstances. Financings and investment rounds are acquisitions, unless they're particularly noteworthy. And we don't usually cover employee moves. This Week in Fintech gives you all of that on a global scale. So if you're looking for those details, This Week in Fintech is where you'll find them regularly and reliably. Now, turning to This Week in Fintech's China edition, look there for information on licensing, regulation, and fintech, and payments for that country. Turning to Fintech Business Weekly, Kenneth and Scott Lenoir are the center of Jason's deep dive. This family, which is behind Evolve Bank and the Synapse bankruptcy, has a long and storied history of what Jason Mikula alleges are breaches of fiduciary duty. Fintech Wrap-Up has an incredible piece on open banking, basically everything from soup to nuts, including a diagram of what it is, an explanation of how it's transforming financial services, and a view of why open banking is a game changer. If you want to understand open banking, this is a not to miss piece. More learning opportunities. The Defiant has a story on a new token called Jelly Jelly. This token had its ICO on a meme coin platform. But don't be fooled. Coming from one of the Venmo founders and a venture investor, this is not a frivolous pump and dump meme coin. The Defiant story on Jelly Jelly is like a case study in token utility. So if you're learning about crypto, or you're looking to invest in something that rocketed to a $250 million market cap, check it out. In the Pomp letter, Anthony Pompliano is explaining the new accounting rules affecting Bitcoin treasury companies. I know, you're thinking, I'm not an accountant for Bitcoin treasuries. Why do I care? Hey, we're here to point you to the good stuff. This explains in layman's terms what these accounting changes mean, where they stem from, and why they're important. It's a really good read for all of us payments geeks. You know who you are. Superhuman AI put out a special robotics edition, and if you've thought AI was coming for your job, look out because it actually might be robotics that's coming for you. Popular Fintech has a post on the expected new flows of revenue Visa is trying to capture as it reaches beyond consumer to business payments. Fintechtress does a nice dive into AI-driven risk management and compliance. This is one of the highlights I identified as a must-read for everyone who works with banking. Okay, moving to our AI segment now. Peter Yang is talking about a hack to build apps with AI when you're not a coder. It covers everything from how to pick the right AI tool to build, building an app step by step, data models, etc. Payments Culture has an article on Germany's legacy payment tech and the impact of AI on that country's advances. Woo! Tired yet? Okay, we've been waiting, so let's check in with Mr. X on this super busy day.
Well, Miss Michelle, Fintech gossip never sleeps. Tomorrow, I am going to try to find out what I can about the federal government's payment systems or what's left of them. Today, we start with musical chairs at PayPal, Amex, and Wells Fargo. Payments Dive reports that three industry giants, PayPal, Amex, and Wells Fargo, are all shaking up their leadership teams. While official statements frame these moves as strategic realignments, industry insiders suspect a mix of internal power struggles, boardroom tensions, and of course, the ever-popular blame game for underperforming sectors. At PayPal, longtime execs are making way for fresh faces, likely in an attempt to breathe new life into the company's growth strategy. Amex's leadership shuffle seems more like a calculated play for stability in an increasingly unpredictable market. But Wells Fargo? Well, let's just say if you ever need proof that the more things change, the more they stay the same, look no further. Now, I call this next item the raise nobody's surprised by. Wells Fargo CEO Charlie Scharf is getting a substantial pay bump, bringing his total compensation to a cool $31,200,000 for 2024. And before you ask, yes, this is the same Wells Fargo that just this weekend managed to get out from under yet another regulatory consent order. Convenient timing, huh? With this raise, Scharf officially joins the club of banking CEOs whose compensation packages make fintech startup founders weep. Meanwhile, inside sources say that some of the bank's execs are quietly questioning how exactly this pay increase squares with ongoing layoffs and cost-cutting measures. And finally, this blind item. The title, not mine, the author's, is This Isn't About Payments. It's about politics. This legislation sitting in Congress with a bullseye over interchange in the card networks is like an iceberg that reaches thousands of feet under the surface. A major payments debate is playing out, but not in the way you might think. On the surface, it looks like another round of market battles over Visa and MasterCard's dominance. But behind closed doors, some very powerful lobbying groups are pulling the strings, not to reshape the payments industry, but to influence policy that goes far beyond transaction fees. This quiet but aggressive power struggle is playing out in back rooms, think tanks, and even within government agencies. Insiders suggest that the real end game isn't about payments innovation at all. It's about controlling regulatory narratives before the next administration has a chance to shake things up. Will this get the mainstream coverage it deserves? Probably not. But for those paying attention, it's a stark reminder that in fintech, the biggest moves don't always happen in boardrooms. They happen in Washington. Deep breaths, payments and FinPack friends, move fast and break things is usually uncomfortable. I'll be here tomorrow, and so will you. I'm Mr. X for the Yuri Uplock's Last Night team.
And that, folks, is your payments and fintech fix for today. If you feel like you just absorbed a semester's worth of payments and banking intel in 15 minutes, same. It feels like I started this episode sometime in 2023. But that's why we do it, so you don't have to. We are celebrating our 1-month anniversary today, and so far we are thrilled with the response. So here's the deal. We want to keep Your Inbox Last Night free, but we need your help. The best thing you can do is share it. The more listeners, the more likely we'll be able to fund our effort with sponsorships instead of subscriptions. Because let's be real, nobody needs another paywalled news source in their life. So subscribe, tell a friend, and be a part of our growing community. For Your Inbox Last Night, I'm Michelle Tivy. Thanks for listening, and remember, FinTech never sleeps. But you should, at least 8 hours. See you tomorrow.